Originally produced by our team at Ingenuity Radio in 2002, Searching for the New Liberalism is a 9-part series adapted for this podcast, The Life of a Servant.
Welcome to Part 7. This segment highlights social issues, featuring Mark Podlasly, Tom Axworthy, Carolyn Bennett, Desiree McGraw, Borys Wrzesnewskyj, John Roberts, Michael Kirby, and Dennis Mills.
Some examples from Saskatchewan where I'm negotiating to give you a sense of where we're at. The socioeconomic disparity between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in Saskatchewan has created a powder keg in terms of public policies. Unemployment among First Nations is 5 times the rest of Saskatchewan. Per capita incomes among First Nations is 1/4 of the rest of Saskatchewan. Over 2/3 of the persons incarcerated in Saskatchewan are Aboriginal, although they form about 15% of the population. First Nations children are 2 to 3 times more likely to come from a single-parent family than their non-First Nations counterparts, and 15 times more likely to live in crowded conditions, that is, greater than 1 person per room. First Nation persons in Saskatchewan are in much poorer health as well. The infant mortality rate for registered Indian population in Saskatchewan are 2.5 times the national average, while the incidence of tuberculosis is 25 times the national average. About 30% of registered Indians over the age of 15 have never worked in their lifetime, compared to 7% of the reference population of Saskatchewan. Almost 1/3 of the registered Indian population living on reserve has less than a grade 9 education, compared to 12% for other Saskatchewan residents. The average annual income per capita for registered Indians on reserve is $5,400, as compared to $17,200 for the rest of the population in Saskatchewan. Now, this, for the most part, is speaking about the situation on reserve, but as Mark has pointed out, the situation in urban centers is no better. The incidence among poverty among urban Aboriginal people is the highest of any population except non-permanent residents. Based on data from the 1996 census, Aboriginal people comprise 23% of the store population of Saskatchewan, although they were 8% of the total population. In Regina, the proportions were 24% and 7%. If you were development index for HDI, developed by the United Nations program, appears success as a single measure of well-being based upon life expectancy, education, and income, and it's a familiar measure for Canadians because we consistently rank near the top of that index. In 1989, the federal government conducted a study to determine how First Nations would fare in such a test. In 1994, Canada ranked first among states. In that same year, the registered Indian population of Canada ranked 48th. As for Panama, while the registered Indian population of Saskatchewan ranked 59th, after Bahrain and just ahead of Fiji. The situation is getting worse, not better, because of the demographic pressures. The First Nation population is young. 54% are under the age of 20, as compared to 30% of the reference population. The median age of Saskatchewan First Nation population is 17 years, compared to 35 years for the reference population. As the Saskatchewan First Nation baby boom approaches the labor market over the next few years, you see little chance of hope. The total cost could be enormous. So right now, if you're a young First Nation fellow in Saskatchewan, you've got a better chance of going to jail than you have of going to university. Saskatchewan is the world leader among the G8 in terms of break-ins per capita, auto theft per capita, highest incarceration rate. This is the social fabric out of society, turning unglued, becoming ripped. And I wanted to say this because I don't think people have properly understood what the case here. And while I use Saskatchewan as an example, Manitoba next door has more or less the same demographic characteristics, the same population, the same movement toward the city, and the same lack of program. Now, I want to point out that this isn't because the federal government isn't spending money. The federal government contributes annually almost $1 billion to First Nations in Saskatchewan. That compares with the provincial expenditure budget of the government of Saskatchewan of some $6 billion. So we're pouring money in, so we're just not getting the results. And it seems to me that we need to rebuild the relationship. And I have some thoughts about that. But it seems to me the fundamental premise which Mark spoke to was we need to rebuild our approach. And my thinking around here, and perhaps it's because of that thing, is that we need to rebuild on the treaty relationship. Now, that's important because for most First Nations, the treaty is the only consensual act they have between Canada and First Nations. It's a consensual act for First Nations, the foundation of their relationship with Canada. It is analogous to the terms of union to which the province's ancient confederation. There's a literature around this concept of treaty federalism, which we might do well below. So First Nations see their relationship with Canada as one of nation to nation. The elders, I mean, will speak of better to govern relations, founded upon the treaty, as opposed to a colonial and fraternalistic Indian, which is uneven but consensual. Now, this, if we move to a more enlightened and perhaps more liberal approach to Aboriginal policy, it seems to me we're going to have to constrict with looking at Canada perhaps as a multi-nation state, and which brings me to my second point, which is I think we need to gathering strength. Canada's Aboriginal Action Plan went partway insofar as the government of Canada said, you are partly responsible for the disaggregation of your nations, which have resulted now in some 630 Indian bands. And we think, well, we want to help. We want to help you rebuild these nations. If I were successful, there would be some 60 First Nations in Canada rather than 630 bones. And it's important here that we, I think, look to assist First Nations in aggregating to either their very traditional model, and of course the unitary of a nation, it's agreement with a nation of people. But for example, the work in Saskatchewan that I'm doing, we're looking there at aggregating all the First Nations in Saskatchewan, all steadily too. So you would have one province-wide First Nation government covering 72 First Nation communities and representing 158,000 people. Now there you can do something. There you can look at in the First Nation curriculum to make sure First Nation students get through high school so they can get to university. There you can have economies of scale, you can have efficiency, where you can't in communities of 600 people. How the community of 600 people become self-governing? Is that a meaningful way to go? So a third point I need to is really to build on Mark's point that our approach right now really doesn't address the situation with people living in urban areas. And there's several ways to do that. One would be to enable First Nations to deliver program services in urban centers, and in our perspective for Saskatchewan, we're looking at the possibility of, for example, having First Nations schools in urban centers, so that the kids can move from reserves to city study things fruition, and they should move back and forth, and they could hopefully be more effective in terms of considering their education. But a fourth area, I want to build on some of the things that Tom Ashworthy started here remarks yesterday afternoon, and a theme which we're all commissioned when Aboriginal people, I think that Borys first on, and that is we need a socioeconomic investment strategy for Aboriginal people. And we need it to be a strategy that's tripartite. That is to say, let's develop by Aboriginal people, with the federal government, and with the province. To share this is a problem that's way too big for the Department of Indian Affairs to address, never mind federal government aid. And if we don't make the investment, I think it's hurt. Well, let me put it this way. The rate of spending now is growing quite quickly. We're having zero impacts, so that our current the status quo is unsustainable. It's unsustainable economically, financially, it's unsustainable socially, intergovernmentally, and interpersonally. So it's not an option. Unless we change, we're going to see the intersocietal risks that I was referring to. They're already seen, and they're already seen in the data we're pursuing in terms of break-ins and so forth. So this is a big, especially in Western Canada, a very big issue which I think is not if we're all seeing. Governments historically, both federal and provincial, have not been very effective in dealing with this. It's always, what do we do? It's not something that there's a quick fix for. But I think we need a strategic approach, which is really based on a fundamental shift in our public policy. And that, I think, nothing else will be the job.
Tom now has a big life stream for all of you, and I already have, I think, 8 on the speakers list, so I'm going to have now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the transition point was this coastal channel, the panels we had yesterday, and the point that we're just about to emerge at lunchtime, which they're talking about can the system be moved and the role of political change and then institutional reform. One of the questions that was raised yesterday by several of our speakers, those when the generational differences, much discussion about networking and so on, and skepticism about the party system. And it was raised quite explicitly yesterday, what is the role of parties and what does Ottawa do that may mean something to me. Parties organize public opinion. They sometimes lead it. They organize choices that influence public policy. So that's still a pretty important component, I think, of the reform agenda. Occasionally they need public opinion. Most usually they sample it and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that to engender support among a wide series of constituencies, not teasing anybody, but not teasing anybody too much. The issue that we had before us, and we just had an eloquent panel, just one issue on Aboriginal issues, urban and poverty, and we had many others. Antonio raised the health question without raising the cost issue. It occurred all for Sherry's general discussion about community, and I put some things in my paper specifically about the children's agenda, that I think we have a very major choice as we move forward, and the choice is this. Can we, realistically, put in front of the Canadians a major investment strategy? In my paper, I talked about 5 areas. There's been some problems today. There's at least 7 that we talked about. Big time problems which need big time solutions. Then we address that by going to Canadians to say, we want an investment strategy, and together we're going to have to pay for it. And that is taking head on what has been the general political climate for the last decade around taxes. And saying now, after Walkerson and after terrorism and after the crisis the Canadians think is in healthcare, this is the time to move forward on an investment strategy. Or is that gamble too big? that we can't sell it. The most voted words in Canada are GST. But we have to be very talking about rights and responsibility. Those who are advocating major reforms have to be responsible in how they can finance it. We either go back into deficit or we finance it somehow. So the question, I think, before the House, without denigrating in any way these wonderful ideas which have come out, is we have to put the connection. How do we relate that to the party system? Can this succeed in persuading Canadians about a major investment strategy, which then implies a major debate on taxes? Or if that is too big, I'm not and we don't think that we can do it, then our second best response, I'm afraid it has to be, on a relatively limited fiscal base, not totally bare, but a limited fiscal base, then how will we decide between Aboriginal poverty and health issues? And I made a case for an investment in foreign and defense policy or corporate taxes or social policy. What if we, at least have to put up the choices? Can we persuade Canadians to go for an investment strategy with all that implies? That is a big, bang political debate. Or do we have to then debate what are the trade-offs between all these good areas? We have to make one choice or the other. I'd love to hear from people about that dilemma.
Yeah. There's some speakers who may be able to speak to this on the speaker list. I would frame it differently myself, in that I think that the two of the big things to be talked about, Aboriginal and healthcare, we may already be spending enough on it. We just haven't had the nerve to do things differently because of all of the EdProv gridlock and all that. And I sure wouldn't be asking for a big investment strategy without us having the political will to do stuff differently and to work on results instead of how much boast about how much they're spending on stuff. So I wouldn't put another penny in until we're doing it differently. So it's what happened to us in healthcare in the 80s. We spent all this extra money. You didn't get one miserable increase in access or quality. And we got to do this differently. And that's what the task is going to be. I think if we look at social justice issues, is that the fairness part is clear to Canadians. They've got to tap in there. We have to decide, what are we prepared to change? What aren't we prepared to change? I don't think we want to change the core values, but we sure have got to figure out a different way of doing stuff. In every single town, whether it's the difference in an inclusive society in the community, that's changed in terms of the learning. In the healthcare, it's the content that's changed, not the equality or the whether it's working. In the justice, it's things like legal aid, getting people access to the justice system. To don't have originals. It's the cities that we didn't acknowledge and we're not doing properly. So I'm asking a different question. Are we prepared to do things differently? Tom's asking, are we prepared to do a big, huge investment? And Charles Tassie are the first to be podium here in terms of your observation. So I have Patrick, Robert Greenhill, Desiree, Borys, John Robert, Heeman, and then Peter wanted another go at draft financing, and then it has Jim Church. Yeah, not yet. No.
What I have to say quickly is gone from going door to door over 10 elections and what I hear there. And so, probably the point that it's forcefully quite evident that it has been said here to be this careful the liberal partial liberalism in Canada is a due to its social agenda. And then whether it will be a new liberalism or just liberalism in future, I don't see the need for new liberalism, but it should do fine. It will be based, it's of course, again, on its social agenda. No doubt in my mind, and it's only based on actually from practical experience door to door. Just all based on one law, not on continuous story, just from personal observation.
And therefore, the conclusion from that observation is that having built a fantastic foundation, the GIS, OER, the CPT, and you know all of them, it's very well known. We now need to address the unfinished job. The next big step forward for liberalism in Canada, namely home care and farmer care and child care and much parental leave improved, which is already in constant in communities where they do see here, a new Canada fiscal plan, and then a new round of youth and single programs. So this is why I like very much what I heard this morning from Sherry Gordon, and the also of his promptness for the public good. And also what I heard yesterday on social cohesion from Borys Wrzesnewskyj, because he convinced that good economic performance depends on the crucial goals. And even investments now, with widespread recognition, are attracted by good housing, good hospitals, good connecting transports, good cultural activities, good parks, healthy water, breathable air, you name it. So the advantages that are to be derived from the economic side of human activities are dependent increasingly so on the cost of performance. So that's a well-known share, but somehow our shares in the services of threatening. Now, coming now to Tom's question, which is a central one, and it crossed my mind also yesterday. Also, John Manley has put that question to people in recent days. Revenues are decreasing, and how do we go about them in progressing with our agenda? And my thought immediately goes to the fact that we do not help governments, we do not help the social agenda, we do not help progress when we introduce tax cuts. Tax cuts mean government cuts. And so the new liberalism, it seems to me acting it up behind what it wants to please everybody to pay taxes. Not those who don't pay taxes because they can't afford it, but just those who pay taxes to be given a few extra dollars, but at the same time reducing the capacity of dominance and the capacity of unionists who are desperately seeking for funds in order to do what they think the public wants. And so it was a choice to remove the cost of the social agenda, which to me is not a cost, but it is basically kind of since variable, this is a phase is benefit, then it has to be covered by being more careful with this current lawsuit, which are saying is anti-liberal even, of reducing taxes. There are $100 billion that are being lost in this current 5 years in revenue because of tax cuts. And whether the future of liberalism will want to please the taxpayers again depends on this type of decisions. There are considerable amounts of money. Also, I think that the future of liberalism depends on our ability to convince people that actually good taxation is good for society. And then eventually goddamn friends. Thank you.
Well, to Tom's question, I agree that there need to be more investment, but there needs to be investment of thinking, there needs to be investment of courage, there needs to be investment of the political capital. I am very skeptical there needs to be an increased investment in money. Perhaps what we should do is say at the end of the day, when we really have invested all those other ingredients, we should then be prepared to commit the funds necessary to have a society legal even. But money masks mediocrity. What we need to be careful about is that whatever it is we're investing in is we're investing in something that is truly excellent. And that would be my point to answer your question, which is I'd be very careful about what we're applying that investment against and what we mean by it. But sure, time, effort, debates, courage, political capital, and that brings me to, I found the panel extraordinary. I thought these are short, speakers, and the current answers were superb, and lots of new ideas.
And I wanted to mention speaking to Mark because I thought it was a fresh and innovative perspective. It tied very well into what we've been talking about yesterday about global engagement and this idea that there's a continuum of community across borders and frontiers. And we were talking about that from the Canadian diaspora, and from Mark, your comments on Aboriginal people, that same element, and being able to go out and find different perspectives, skills, and so on that can be brought back to the communities while having the reserve acting as an entry point in terms of values, in terms of culture, and so on. Actually, I thought paralleled very well what we've been talking about yesterday. And in a sense, I was also a very optimistic and forward-looking view of the resilience of our community, particularly out of the box. It's saying we shouldn't be thinking about Aboriginal people doing it in the box of the reserve. We should be thinking about how we engage with them and support their aspirations regardless of the geographical positioning. That actually rings very true to what we were saying about what Canadians, how we shouldn't be keeping ourselves in this box saying, if you're a good Canadian, you stay here. If you're a good Canadian, you're going anywhere in the world, you're getting that perspective, you're bringing it back to this country. And so I thought there was a great parallel there. And I hope over time, these two elements of engagement across frontiers come up with some specific policy suggestions. So thank you.
Actually, just picking up on Robert's point, in terms of the ideas, the lack of ideas and investing in excellent things, it seems to me that the gap between our government and the party and Canadians is that the government doesn't see the party as a source of time, volunteer time, money, but not a source of ideas. And I think we've seen the whole policy process in the party completely undermine subsidiary to leadership and other concerns, which are important, but they should not trump drawing on the party for ideas. So I think that is a huge one. And there's a book I'll have where I'm sitting called The Ingenuity Graph. I hope everyone in this room reads it. Thomas Homer Dixon, Pat Homer Dixon, was invited to this conference, did not make it. But basically what it looks at is the increasing gap between the problems that we're creating economically, socially, environmentally, and our lagging ability to adapt. So I think that's a huge problem for this party, for this government. And anyway, so I do recommend it. Specifically on Tom's question about investing, I spoke yesterday about Kyoto as one example really of a witness test on environment and to some extent sustainable development issues. Perhaps my presentation should have been part of this channel, and Peter, perhaps you should have spoke on the first channel. But it seems to me that the social agenda, the economic agenda, the environmental agenda, all of these fall under sustainable development. And so I have to say, it's a new liberalism. And in your case, you didn't talk about the environment. To not include the environment, this is not part of liberalism. This is not something I want to be a part of. And one of the reasons that the next generation, I talk about myself and talk about my students, don't have anything to do, for the most part, with political parties, with this party. I mean, political parties and parliaments do not have a monopoly on politics. My students are extremely politically engaged, but completely outside the formal party process. And we are leaving the best and the brightest, hard to get them in, hard to keep them, because we are not addressing the issues that are of concern to the next generation. And I'm sorry to say, sustainable development is the overarching framework. It's environment, it's development, and it's, of course, society. And that really, I hope, what a major underpinning of the new liberalism is. Some of these sites are run in the School of Economics. To me, it seems, to some extent, that the new liberalism is a third way, where it's key to certain objectives and values we own, but the means we can be rather flexible and innovative in achieving those. So I just want to, I spoke about Kyoto yesterday, but the real point is sustainable development is really how to come across in this distressing. We're losing the next generation because of it. We've got to get with the program. And on the farm, we've got to get with the program and creating the program. And I just think it's been a major oversight. I think it's wonderful this conference is happening. And it's one of the first times that as a member of this party, I actually feel that there are other liberals who want to talk about issues and not just leadership or tactics or organization. seems to me this is really where we should be going. And this is how we're going to bring in the next generation, not by selling a bunch of membership forms, but by talking about issues that the next generation cares about. So I'm sorry if even on our speech, we're all across generations in this room. We all love to give speeches. And unfortunately, we've all been giving a series of speeches, including myself, and we haven't really been engaging each other in debate. And I don't really see how we're going to move forward unless we start challenging each other and having a real debate around this table.
I just want to thank you for saying that. In the healthcare debate, the thing that has the most resonance of anything I ever say is that you want clean air, you want more poppers and respirators, and every Canadian understands that we actually just have to go on to clean air as part of a sustainable healthcare system. And there's a series of questions we can ask people, and we have to actually be touching what they intrinsically already know about what the follows of government and the good lockdown this way just aren't touching, because we have everything organized in all of these other ways, and particularly this socio-economic tug of war where we used to have our social policy caucus meet at the same time as the economic policy caucus until we said we shouldn't be doing it anymore. And so anyway, I thank you, because I don't know how we can do this, that we get more debate, but maybe that'll be the challenge to the afternoon in terms of, because it's and yet a speaker versus 10, it's very difficult for enough people to respond to what the other person just said. So, Borys, do what you can do.
My name's Borys Wrzesnewskyj. In Sherry's presentation this morning, there was a phrase that caught my attention. She talks about poetry in public life. And in most of the presentations during this weekend, we've been provided with a great deal of empirical data that helps us focus on our successes and also a lot of our failures. But politics is not only a science, it's also an art. And perhaps in our search for a new liberalism, we should, or in another phrase, not only reclaim our humanity, but look at redefining our humanity in a new coastal charter. And this perhaps addresses the dilemma that Tom talked about. We have 5 or 7 areas that we know. How do we sell it to the public? The public that's used to talking about the numbers and chances. And this is where we touch upon, once again, this church. Perhaps what we need to do when we look to putting together a new social charter, we need to write it in such a way that it inspires all of us, whether it's the lawyers among us or their 10-year-old son. And when we stop playing the game of politics and perhaps look to our role as being the art of leadership and are able to put together a new charter, a social charter for our party, we'll be able to solve some of these grave problems that we're facing today. Thank you. My name is John Albert. I want, first of all, to say how strongly I would endorse the remarks of Desiree, but I'm really here to make a brief comment on Peter Barrow's paper, which I like very much, partially because of its emphasis on diversity and tolerance as essential characteristics of liberalism, and partially because of the resistance to the developing an idea that individualism and society have a right not to have their feelings hurt. John Stuart Mill will be turning in his grave. I agree. I agree with him about the logic of the standing clause. So, given the rigidity of the Canadian Constitution, I don't see it really practicable, at least in any reasonable future. The future was otherwise that it could be changed. Though I can't help but comment that if only Tom Axworthy and I had our way 20 years ago, these problems would never have arisen.
But I really want to urge those of you who, like me, don't read footnotes because the print is so small, to look very closely at a long footnote in his paper, which is about legal aid and the administration of justice. It seems to me that the fundamental principle underlying Medicare is that access to fairness in medical services is not to fall the common income. It seems hard to me to believe that the system of justice is not as important as the delivery of medical services. Yet I think it is almost incontestable that income, or if you like, financial resources, does have an impact on the fairness of the decisions which the justice system that's formally constituted delivers. It seems to me that the logic which some is working out with enormous difficulties in relation to Medicare is going to start to apply to this question of liquidation of the administration of justice services. And indeed, I can clearly say that in legal profession, there is a continuing growing concern about this. So I don't think that concern is generally disseminated in the society. I think it is an extraordinarily important issue. I think it would wisely see it come more and more to the forefront. And I think Peter is right that there's a need for someone somewhere or sometime soon starts to hold a conscience on these issues. You could occupy a whole conference. But a good start is the footnote, the long footnote that he's written, and I urge you to pay attention to it in this paper.
Carol, I'd like to make two comments on the healthcare. The first is that our healthcare system is good when you compare to the U.S. We have bragging rights in the U.S., but we don't have bragging rights in the context of the world. We are in the average position of the OECD countries in terms of how much we spend and what we get in exchange for that. We don't have a leading role in the world. We have to do quite a few things. And this leads me to my second point. I fully endorse the idea that what we have to do is do things differently rather than throw more dollars at or something. The kind of problems we're facing in healthcare in Canada are almost identical to the kind of problems we're facing in almost all the other countries. And there's an emerging tool of thought that trains that the best way to deal with these problems is to put much more emphasis on prevention rather than curative medicine. When you look at the healthcare systems that we have, almost all of them are not really healthcare systems, they're disease control systems, in the sense that there's a lot of money to be made in disease control. Doctors get to work, hospitals get to be filled, and there's very little reward associated with prevention. A hospital bed is often in features like an empty hospital bed is seen like an empty hotel bed, which means inefficiency. You have to fill it up. And this perverse logic which is in the system is because there's no dollar value attached to prevention. If there's a dollar value attached to prevention, it would be completely different. So I would argue that one of the aspects of the new liberalism would be to move towards the health system as opposed to the disease control system, where health would be actually measured in the gross domestic product, which is not mass, and which completely biases the system in the wrong direction. And from that point of view, I think Canada should become not only a leader vis-a-vis the United States, but a leader in the context of the whole world. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Thank you. Wonderful lesson. I just wanted to address Tom's questions about the choice between trying to mobilize public opinion and to go large-scale investment or instead having the ability to choose someone a competing set of priorities. This may sound like a very liberal middle of the road thing to say, but I don't think it's not a real point. The reason I say that is that no matter how much money is pumped into the system, you will always be left with a choice between competing priorities, and the ability to fund can often be prescribed primarily the allocation of scarce resources amongst unlimited public demand. The only way we could avoid those sorts of contributions on sources is if there were unlimited resources available to government, which clearly is not likely to be the case either in Robert or my lifetime.
But the second question around the earlier question around is it feasible or is it desirable for us to try to mobilize public opinion to create a public upcharge for a large-scale investment in the social program, in new social programs? I would say that my own feeling is that it would be extremely difficult to mobilize public opinion around the idea of new investment, and especially around investment, both the negative and the positive reasons. From the negative perspective, and I think anyone who wishes to understand public opinion has to grapple with the unfortunate fact that there is widespread university society. And from that perspective, I'm indebted to my son Michael Leaney for his survey showing that the majority of Canadians do not know what vote. In the context of that, trying to lead Canadians to conclusion based on presenting them with numbers of magnitude is unlikely to be successful. But from a positive perspective, I think Canadians are likely skeptical about government commitments that are framed in terms of input rather than in terms of output, because they are, in reality, most Canadians govern their lives and expect governments to govern themselves. They not so much on how much they're going to spend, but what it is they're going to achieve. And it has been one manifest area, I would say, in all government departments over all time. It has been that their budgets are designed around interest rather than around output, around more around how much money they want and how much money they will spend and where they will spend it, rather than what value is being paid for that expenditure. And indeed, I would say that what passion for accountability today in W tends to be an assurance of the spent money where they said we were going to spend it. Real accountability should be how we achieve what we set out to achieve, and indeed are there measurable results tied to the achievements, tied to funding that's provided for each department. But more broadly, I do think that political parties have the ability to mobilize public opinion around social objectives, around what is that they need to achieve and what kind of design to they want to have. One of the reasons I believe that healthcare has become perhaps the preeminent social policy issue in Canada is not simply because it comes to Canadian very liberal values about compassion care, and not simply because every Canadian can imagine himself or herself needing to avail themselves of the healthcare system at some point. It is because I believe healthcare has become an almost symbolic social policy issue. It symbolizes the belief that Canadians have that their interests as individuals is inextricably linked to the well-being of every other member of society, and that essentially Canadian artful of faith that citizens cannot in the long term rise above one another, they have to ride with one another. And I do believe that political parties not only have the ability to move opinion, but they have the unique ability to do so. Because I certainly take Desiree's point that it is a tragedy that many of the best and brightest in Canadian society are finding political expression outside of the political process. But the unique contribution that political parties have been made to the political process, and the contribution that you must not be proud of articulating, is that political parties are the only entities in society that seeks to understand and seeks to adopt the totality of the public interest. And in an increasingly pluralistic society, it's not merely possible, but in other forms that equally the different substances will sometimes conflict. And for making progress on any one aspect of any one social indicator means having both the courage and the foresight to understand all social indications. And there's no organizations out there, civil organizations of national membership that actually seek, however imperfectly, to advance the totality of the public interest other than political community.
Thanks, Pakaka. I think it's another conference for Tom to organize, and it just the whole accountability thing, I think, and the cost of government thing, that it can be actually thinking for those that is our quality of life. We've got to actually be measuring that and be accountable for the results we get across government departments. And I know Treasury Board trying to do this, but I would see that new liberalism is figuring out better ways to measure how we're doing across all of government on the things that are in our brochures. Cleaner air, healthier populations, safer streets. How are we doing that across the whole of government with the little pockets of money that come across from government departments? And how are we accountable for those results that really are about the quality? And how do we look at the disaggregated data like David Hawksfield, that when you know that the Aboriginal people are down at 48 compared to first, that is the way that we appeal to Canadians about their insurance into trauma, and that they know that that's not working, and it's how we get back in terms of the core Canadian values, which I happen to believe are liberal values. So it's Michael Kirby.
I was sort of ashamed to come to the mic as a television since I was based from Ontario. I thought you might think my commentary is longer than the original paper. So I will in fact try to be very brief. Antonio's comments on the healthcare paper are worth reading, provided that you understand the terminology. My concern was that the paper uses a lot of terminology which is used in the public parlance, but not, in fact, correct. And so I just wanted to sort of clarify a couple of points. Throughout the paper, Antonio talks about the public healthcare model. Let me be clear, we don't have a public healthcare system in Canada, if emphasis is on health. We have a public hospital and doctor system. And hospitals and doctors are now 46% and rapidly declining as a portion of healthcare expenditure. And so I think it's important when you discuss issues related to the role of government in healthcare that you decide whether you're talking about healthcare or whether you decide that you're talking about hospitals and doctors. So I think it's important when we make presentations that people we're very clear with the final terms. The second observation is the emphasis on the word public. Throughout all of the legislation going way back to the origins of the 1957 Public Health Insurance Act, all the way through to the Canada Health Act, the word public deals only with funding. There is no pieces of the legislation, including the Canada Health Act, that says anything about the ownership structure of delivery institutions. Unfortunately, for all kinds of reasons, various special interest groups have taken the word public, or conversely, the word private, and tried to infer that the Canada Health Act and other things deal with the ownership structure of delivery institutions like hospitals and clinics, when in fact there's no constraints on that at all. And therefore, when Antonia and I wrote her phrase down, when she says that some of the recent developments in Alberta, and I assume she's referring to, for example, the recent clinics that are set up out there, and her words were, stretch the flexibility as a public model. They do nothing of the sort. They may well stretch the flexibility and indeed may well violate the Canada Health Act on the issue of equal access, but they do nothing and say nothing about violating any rule on the issue of whether they're publicly or privately owned. So the equal access is an issue, but the ownership is not. And by the way, just as your time, on the equal access issue, one of the most wonderfully misunderstood elements of the Canadian healthcare system is the Working Compensation Board, the Working Social and Safety Board, WSIB in Ontario, openly violate the Canada Health Act because they were explicitly excluded when the Canada Health Act is set up. If you really want to see a future system in operation, go and find out how people are treated who are injured and subject to being paid for by Working Compensation Board. For instance, they get the doctors who are paid for treating WSIB patients for the Working Compensation Board patients are typically paid 2 to 4 times more than the doctors paid for exactly the same procedure in the public system, and they're also in provinces with caps on doctors' income. If you see the WCB patient, the income he earns, and that doesn't come under the cap. So there is an equal access issue. The third and fourth points I want to make, and then I'll stop, relate to 2 points Antonia maybe she's dead on. The first is that there is a perceived crisis in politics perception of reality. And secondly, and related to that the crisis is really related to the waiting line issue or the waiting list issue. It's not related to service. Repeatedly, once you're in the system, the perceptions of service quality are reasonably high. Are they perfect? No, they're not. But if you looked at them compared to any other complex industry and looked at customer service satisfaction ratings, the service ratings are pretty good at the access issues that are not. The second point she made is the accountability issues. She's dead right on that. What we're seeing between both the federal government and the provinces is the classic exercise of politics is the art of shifting the blame. The provinces in their new protocols continue the rhetoric that 14% of healthcare expenditures are paid for by the federal government. When they say health, by the way, they mean hospital and doctor. The federal government argues it's 40% or thereabouts. When the feds use the 40%, they're talking about healthcare. They're not just talking about hospital and doctor, although they all use the same terminologies. And by the way, neither number is essentially correct. I mean, you can, if there lies, then lies in statistics, and you tell me the percentage you want, and I can conjure up a way of delivering you that number. So it brings me back, I guess, just one final comment on the question Tom put and Carolyn's comment. It does seem to me that although Carolyn tried to suggest that her view and Tom's were different, I don't believe they are. Carolyn's dead right when she says she wouldn't put more money into the healthcare system. I would have added the words as it is presently structured, which is what she meant. You said, right. The reality is that if more money is put into the healthcare system, it must be used to buy change, and that issue Sharon's dead on. On Tom's issue, you can't restructure any industry, let alone the healthcare industry, without more money. And therefore, you require an investment. I mean, look at any industry restructuring that's taken place across North America during the 90s, and you will find restructuring is an expensive proposition. And therefore, I would say that Tom and Carolyn are exactly the same page. And so the debate that will take place in essentially the Senate committee report will be out the last week of October. The Government Committee will be out the last week of November. They will then, I presume, because I have a suspicion that the two will not necessarily coincide on some of the central issues. There will then be lots of room for public debate. And I would only ask when you're reading what people say that you listen carefully to the code words and try to decide if when they say health they mean health or a hospital and doctor only. When they say public, do they mean, or when they say private, are they talking about private delivery or private funding? One of which is legal in Canada, one of which is not. And finally, that we engage in the debate that I would say that Tom and Carolyn both put forward, which is our Canadians, in fact, propose to change your system to deliver the things that they said they all polls would indicate that they wanted to deliver. And this will be the central social policy issue, in my view, of the next year, and certainly leading up to the next budget. And it's an issue which, frankly, I hope a lot of you participate.
Hold on. I would confer that the native situation in Manitoba is one, and we're going to have to look at your approach in dealing with it. But there's been a lot of talk about any approaches and not using money to make changes. I'm going to propose a couple of things to think about. I think they're a little bit too radical. They're sharp immediately, but something that you should think about. On the native policy, I would recommend that these recognize that the natives have a unique ethnic background, a unique position in Canada, and you should also recognize that they are a very disadvantaged group. I would suggest that we include them to be Canadians, teach them all the unique ethnic group, teach them as a disadvantaged people, but make them full Canadians. In other words, put them in the same status as other Canadians and deal with them on what type of Canadians they are. To treat them as separate people is leading us to disaster. It sounds very good, it's very idealistic, oh yes, to have us treated and so on, but it is leading us to a real disaster in the future. I would recommend to look up to considering changing the status. And it truly takes some unpopular things, but this will get us results where I don't think anything else will. On the matter of health care, similarly have a suggestion to start discussing something else. Health care had become a money business. People look up making money when other people get sick. Now, they need to have prevention and have no diseases, but that will not happen very soon. So we got to look at a way of dealing with the diseases that we do have. And in the past, we had their health care was not based on money as much as is today. Doctors worked long hours, didn't got their house calls, but paid very little. There are thousands of Canadians that want to help people, that are not that concerned about money. We should try to get these people into the healthcare system. There are a lot of them that want to train. There's young people, they can't quite afford to go to the medical college, but they want to help people. And there are other healthcare workers. There are NGOs, community groups, churches, and so on. They used to run the hospital very efficiently, very well. If you want to get a lot better healthcare system than we have now, there's very little money. We should try to get a way of getting these people back in there and having them run it rather than run it for money.
Tom, I would like to address your point. I think we have to make all of these investments. And because if we don't make them now, we're going to pay 10 times as much down the road. The question is, where are we going to get the money? Now, in the Greater Toronto area alone, we spend $22.5 billion a year. Even though the Toronto Star will say that the Toronto federal members of Parliament are missing in action, the reality is that the government of Canada presence in this city is phenomenal. Problem is that we have two cultures in Ottawa right now. We have a political culture and we have a bureaucratic culture. And the sad fact of the matter is that the bureaucratic culture and their priorities are deciding where that money is flowing. Now, every now and again, politicians will have to know where budget is going in his or her writing. But the reality is there are hundreds of millions of dollars that are being spent on things that are not Liberal priorities. Now, to substantiate this, last January, I asked every deputy minister in the government of Canada, I want to know where this money's going in your department. And as of the security meeting we had last week, I could only get 10 of that $22.5 billion. Now, I'll tell you why we don't know where that money's going, because they don't want us to know. Because I have received envelopes from people who are bureaucrats are embarrassed that we're giving millions of dollars to chartered banks who are making billions of dollars. We're giving millions and millions of dollars to foreign multinational food processing companies. There's not a Liberal in the caucus or in this room that would vote to give that kind of money out. So I say on this $22.5 billion just in our community, and I'm only speaking for our community here, you'd have to reprofile about 10 or 15% of that money, eliminate the things that are non-Liberal expenditures, and put it into the major investments that are Liberal. And I do not support Charles' view about eliminating the tax plan. In fact, I don't think the tax plan was progressive enough. I think that the immediate moment that we start punishing achievers in this country, I think we're going to lose a lot of ingenuity, a lot of energy, and we're going to continue to create an environment that has been created over the last 10 years where the creative process has constantly been turned into a whole bunch of people with rights play in their brains. And I think it's time to reverse that. Thank you.
You have been listening to The Life of a Servant, a Dennis Mills podcast. Visit dennismills.com for more information and archived episodes of this program.